such as Zuhalem and sorry, I'm trying to rattle them off the top of my head here, but we'll talk about the Class C's school bus routes and industrial truck traffic routes with more than 25% trucks not included in the Class A's and B's. Typically, A, B's, and C's will see service in that priority order, and then we go into classification D, which is the other regularly maintained winter routes, such as your typical side road, where it's purely residential. Classification E's are other irregularly maintained winter routes, and classification F are roads not maintained or open in the winter or maintained by the contractor. Where we start to see these classifications come into play is when we look at the highway maintenance specifications in our contract. So on this slide, I've got the patrol specifications. You'll notice that the response by highway classification is designated by a number rather than an alpha. That is the summer classification. So each highway actually has two designations, one for each season. In this round of contracts, rather than having two different patrol specifications, we actually have one specification where frequencies are increased depending on weather. You'll see to the left of the table, we have an at all times patrol specification for Class 1 and 2s. That'll be typical of Class A highways. 3s typically B's and C's. 4s are the C class. 5s also include C class with lower traffic volumes, and 6s and 7s are typically our D class roads. And on the table, you'll note that during periods of heavy rainfall, high water flow, our patrol frequency increases. We have crews out checking drains and any areas that might be susceptible to flooding, as well as just general safety patrols. When a weather event is forecasted, weather event being defined as freezing or snowfall, we increase our patrol frequency, and then during a weather event, our patrol frequency is greatly increased when we're seeing snowfall or freezing events. This next table is our snow removal specifications. So as you'll see, this one goes back to the alpha as it's just for winter time. We have specifications for one lane in each direction, so that's more for a primary lane on a multi-lane highway, or the traveled lane on a side road would fall under that as well. Secondary lanes on a multi-lane highway. You'll see that there's a little bit more accumulation standard than the one lane in each direction, so that the intent is to keep primary traffic lanes within that specification, and the accumulation standard goes up a little bit for secondary lanes. We have a spec for all other lanes, including brake checks and chain up and off areas, any other vehicle access portions of the right-of-way, such as pullouts and shoulders. And then we have rest areas. Notwithstanding the winter accumulations specification, we have removal of slush or broken compact from travel lanes. That's to a time standard rather than a accumulation standard. So slush, broken compact is 90 minutes on a Class A, 2 hours on a B, 6 hours on a C, and not applicable for D class and E class highways. Lastly, in this spec, you'll see that there is a remove winter accumulations and compact after the end of a weather event from travel lanes. This one was a new specification added last year with the renewal of the highway contracts. So bare lanes when the pavement temperature is -9 or warmer, which I hope we don't see -9 or colder. So we have a time response to have compact and ice buildup removed 24 hours on Class A highways, 36 hours on Class Bs, 48 hours on Class Cs, and it's non-applicable to Class Ds, E's, or Class C highways with the surface treatment, or typically called a chip seal road. With that specification, we've had to increase our chemical usage to achieve it, using salt, sand, and calcium to try and break down that compact and meet that time frame specification. Anti-icing and de-icing specifications. So the outcome of the specification is to proactively monitor. Sorry. Proactively monitor, anticipate, manage, and minimize the development of slippery conditions and restore traction. Deploying resources in advance of forecasted or anticipated weather event to pre-treat compact travel lanes with winter abrasives as appropriate for the location to minimize the development of slippery conditions. Deploy resources in advance of forecasted or anticipated weather event to pre-treat bare Class A and B travel lane highways with anti-icing materials as appropriate for the location to minimize the development of slippery conditions and prevent snow or ice from bonding. So what that means is salt brine application, or in some cases calcium brine application in colder temperatures, proactively when we're seeing a forecast come in for cold weather that could potentially cause ice formation on the paved surfaces. We will typically deploy our night shifts ahead of a cold snap that will likely occur on daybreak. That is the coldest point of the day. So we'll have night shift go and apply salt brine to all the travel lanes of our A and B highways, and address some of the steep hills and corners and bus routes as well. This is just a quick tour of our Emcon snowplow, looking at the configurations. So on the front of the truck, you'll see the front plow mount. So that's where you see the big highway plows go on. It's a quick attach so that the operators are able to attach the plow within minutes and be deployed. You'll notice the wing plow on the side of the truck, the orange plow, and then just beside it is an underbody plow, which we can have a better look at from the side view. So mid-truck, you'll see the underbody plow, which is used to actually put pressure on the paved surface and scrape up any slush or compact ice. The front plows don't actually sit completely flush with the pavement. There's a little bit of give so that they ride along and throw the snow. The underbody plow, is the intent of that is that it's a cleanup plow so that it'll be that nice black surface and not leave anything behind. On this particular unit, you'll see the water tank mounted near the back of the truck over the rear two axles. That is a pre-wet system. So what that allows us to do is directly apply salt brine to our crystal rock salt or sand. By applying it to salt, we're actually able to activate the salt instantly. Salt needs moisture to actually actively melt ice. Also, it helps in cold weather to help the salt actually stay in place on the highway instead of getting the sort of scatter effect as it bounces off the paved surface when we're applying. Here's a good view of the high conspicuity panel on the back of the truck. That was added this round of contracts as a mandatory requirement. So you'll see, I have a video actually later in the presentation, but you'll notice all of the lights around the high visibility panel with the checkers, as well as on the hydrofoil or the foil on top. Here's another look at the other side of the truck with our wing plow, our underbody plow. Quick look inside of the cab. So you'll see that joystick just at would be the right-hand side, right arm of our plow truck operator. All of our newer Western Stars have been outfitted with a 550 Rexroth controller. So that plow essentially, or that joystick essentially controls all of the plows with all of the buttons. Then it's a directional for up, down, and movement. In addition, we also have our operators control any spreading functions or off of that unit as well. Brief look at our winter shift. So we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage. You'll see in the middle of the diagram, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3. It's all based on a 7-hour shift. So the pattern is anywhere start time from 7 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock. We stagger each guy coming on so that we always have somebody out on the road. And then as we move through, it's the same kind of idea as shift 2 and shift 3 so that we can achieve that 24-hour coverage and have our shifts lapse over. We have additional operators on standby. Should we get into a weather event, we have the ability to call in people for overtime, auxiliary employees who just work as and when we are experiencing weather patterns. As of November 15th, we've had our winter shift implemented, and the scheduled shifts are consistent 7 days a week to ensure that we're always able to respond to a weather event. Sorry, I missed a slide possibly. No. Anti-icing and de-icing. So you'll see in the picture at the bottom, that is one of our triaxle anti-icing units. The 2 units in the back is what we would call de-icing units. So anti-icing being liquid application and de-icing being rock salt application solid spreaders. We use primarily 3 products as far as winter chemicals. That's salt brine, and calcium brine. As I mentioned, the solid road salts are spread using pre-wet systems, which are mounted on the trucks, activating salt instantly and preventing the scatter spreading. Liquid salt brine and calcium brine are applied proactively to prevent ice formation and bonding of snow to pavement surfaces. As mentioned in this round of contract, we have an enhanced use of liquids to both better provide a level of service and reduce the environmental impact, as with liquids we actually are able to
run much more efficiently, use less chemical, which in turn reduces the amount that's introduced into the ditches and water courses alongside the roadways. This is a quick look at one of our chemical storage facilities. We have locations in Duncan, Bamberton, and Souk. All facilities are constructed to environmental construction standards. What I mean by that is that all of the facilities are built on a non-permeable surface, like an asphalt surface that drains to a catch basin. The catch basin then feeds into a liner that contains all of the runoff water, any kind of contaminants, and actually allows it to evaporate. We maintain that by pumping these out periodically through the year to ensure that we're not introducing any kind of runoffs into the surrounding environment. During brine production, so you'll see the picture on the right-hand side of the slide. Those are bulk storage tanks for brine production. Our operators use digital refractometers to verify salt brine is consistent with 23.3% salt saturation. For those who don't know, that is the ideal salt saturation level for salt brine when using for combating ice on highways and highway maintenance. Any percentage higher or lower, we actually see that the freeze point begins to increase, making the brine less effective. Lastly, we have calcium chloride, which is used in cold weather applications when salt brine is not enough. Salt brine is typically good for a temperature range of 0 degrees Celsius to -6 degrees Celsius. We've used a calcium salt brine mix, which is good for -6 degrees Celsius to about -12 degrees Celsius, and then a straight calcium brine, which is good till about -20 degrees Celsius. Winter abrasive, typically used for steep hills, corners, and intersections. Benefits of winter abrasive is that it immediately improves traction. Salt has a time frame in which it has to react and begin to melt and break down into that liquid that'll melt the snow and ice. And this actually, as everybody knows, when you sand a road, typically you drive carefully and it's okay winter driving conditions. Units that we spread solids with for winter abrasive are equipped with speed sensors to ensure that the application rates are consistent. And in this table at the bottom of the slide, you'll see the winter specification for gradations. So when we talk a Type A sand will be used on all the Class A and B highways. So that's a 9.5 millimeters gradation. We'll see that there's actually a various collection of aggregate sizes, but none of which would exceed 9.5 millimeters in size. The intent in having that gradation size is that the Ministry of Transportation conducted a number of tests over the previous years and found that there was actually a reduction in windshield damage. So, the Type B aggregate, which can be used on a Class C or D highway, is actually what was used in the previous round of highway maintenance contracts as a standard for A and B highways. So you'll see that it's a little heavier in size. We have some aggregate that would have been over 9.5 millimeters, but nothing over 12.5 millimeters in size. Lynxfield automatic vehicle location. So this is the GPS system that we have installed in our fleet. You'll see actually a screenshot from one of our winter operations
maps. What it gives the ability is for our supervisors at a glance to see exactly what the shift has done the night before. So you'll note, it's kind of hard to see with a small picture, but you'll see all of the red lines and then all of the green lines. The green lines are depicting where solids like salt or sand were spread, and then all of the red lines being where plowing was completed. I don't have any on this map, but there's also the blue lines that would be displayed for brine application. On the picture to the right, you can see a supervisor in one of our areas elsewhere in the province, looking at his sort of winter command station, if you will. Our GPS system actually has weather station satellite integration, as well as our Drive BC highway cameras are able to be accessed, and a number of other reports that helps him sort of make those split decisions on what needs to be done as we're seeing the winter storm. We have a couple of stations in our area set up very similar to this picture on the right. High conspicuity panels. So we had a brief look at a still picture. I have a quick 4-second video clip to sort of show you what that looks like when these are all lit up. May or may not have seen a few of these on the highway last year. It was a mandate for more lighting just to increase safety of both road users and our own plow operators going into this round of contracts. And, I highly advise when you see one of these, just keep your distance, follow him through, because typically the road's not going to be much better in front of him. And also not to pass one of those on the right. Motor vehicle incidents. So I just have a quick snippet of our highway incident response specification. Basically, more or less what our main goal in any motor vehicle incident is to contain the site as best as we can, and then facilitate safe movement of traffic as quickly as we can. Typically in motor vehicle incidents, there's an investigation stage that usually has to take place by the RCMP, so it's in our best interest to ensure that their site is protected. They're able to do their job. If we can facilitate movement of traffic, be it single lane around the site, then we'll do that, but only at the discretion of the RCMP. And as soon as we can, open that highway as quickly as possible, or as safely as possible and quickly as possible. That's what we will do. Okay. Malahat chain-up protocol. This is more to do with commercial vehicles. So it's in everybody's best interest to ensure that all vehicles are equipped to drive over mountain passes such as the Malahat, be it winter tires, equipped with chains, having that go bag should anything not go properly, but more to do so with the chain-up protocol. It's a initiative that Ministry of Transportation, Emcon, and CVSE jointly will set up a lane closure in a significant snowfall event. We did a couple of trials last month and it went quite well. So when we set up that lane closure, we're checking to make sure that any commercial vehicles have the chains, as you can see on the diagram on the right, to ensure that they have the required chains for their configuration, be it a B-train or van body or fifth wheel trailer.
the chain-up areas that we set up are West Shore Parkway for northbound traffic and the Bamberton Hill just south of Mill Bay for southbound traffic. COVID-19 protocols. So we have protocols internally, Emcon, to and we keep them updated to reflect the most up-to-date regulations prescribed by CDC, the Health Authority of BC, and Island Health. We have in-cab and office sanitization measures, PPE such as masks, gloves, face shields, and contact elimination solutions to ensure that we're able to practice social distance measures and reduce any kind of outbreak in our offices. All of these measures have been taken and put into place for our crew's safety and as well as to ensure that we have the ability to provide a consistent service through the winter season. And that is the last slide. So I just want to take the time to thank everybody for participating in our presentation, be it brief and socially distant virtual, but I hope everybody has a great, safe winter season. You'll see down at the bottom of the slide, we have a couple of social media accounts. Recommend that you follow them, and also our 24-hour emergency line, which is 1-866-353-3136, and general inquiries for our Malahat office, 778-698-3582. At this time, if anybody would like to voice any questions that you may have thought of through the presentation, we'd be glad just hit the raise your hand indicator, and Craig will be administrating the mute and unmute.
Also, you can leave a question in the chat too that you could answer. Text chat. Is there any?
No takers?
If anybody has any other inquiries that they'd like, the website was where the invitation was sent out to. If you reply to that email on there, then we can answer them separate from this meeting if that works best for you, if you have any concerns or questions. Quiet bunch today.
They're all on mute.
I could unmute everyone. Board Bridges would like to know what number do we call for updates on the roads?
I would recommend that we look at the Drive BC for any updates on the roads. If there is a particular road that you're inquiring on, and we would be glad to get back to you fairly quickly if you call a 24-hour road reporting line, or general inquiries if it's during the day.
Yeah, I work for School District 63 and sometimes just need a quick update on what the roads are like at, 5 o'clock in the morning, whether we're going to close certain areas down or not. That's what I'm looking for, is a little contact in that kind of morning.
Okay, well, I think what we will probably do is set up that coordination between Craig and yourself.
Okay.
And then, when we're in a storm event, we'll be looking for that information and get it out to you as quickly as possible.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sean just wanted to know if MOTI will have access to the recording of this, and you will. Read it.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Oh, Sean was just wondering if MOTI could have a recording of this, and I think it should be fine.
Yeah.
If Bob Day has a question, maybe?
Well, yeah, just Bob Day, the mayor of Town Lake Couch, and just wanted, for lack of questions, just make a comment that it was very enlightening just to sit and listen to this today. And now when people are making statements about our highway conditions, especially Highway 18 and around through town and stuff, that I can make comments now that are somewhat educated. So thank you very much, whoever organized this, and the presenters as well. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
That's what politicians do. We thank everybody. Thank you for the fantastic questions.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm hoping next year that we'll be able to meet in person and we won't have to go to this virtual world.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think anything else? I mean, you guys have our contact information. We'll probably just do a follow-up email out to everybody that was invited, just to reiterate any contact numbers for us. And I thank you all and hope you good health in the new year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take
Bye
care,
now.
everybody.
Happy holidays.